Hello, we have a game! Before I start the game, I have to apologize for the editing. You're not gonna be able to see the clock times and the moves and everything on the right side of your screen as you normally do, because my OBS source was messed up and it kept showing this blank screen. It didn't capture the source, so I tried to edit in the times from the analysis board later on, so I had to edit each separate time for each separate move. I hope that doesn't ruin anything. That's the best I could have done. I had to show the game. So yeah, having said that, let's go back to the video. Okay, let's go d4. The last game I should have converted. I didn't convert it, unfortunately, and ended up drawing a position that was -5, -4, -5. Let's hope my opponent makes a move. Okay. Let's go c4, let's see what my opponent does. Okay, d6. This is likely going to be a King's Indian. If g6, if not, it's going to be an Old Indian. Okay, this line. Perhaps I should have gone knight f3 first, but I don't go knight f3 in these lines because I wish to avoid complications in King's Indians I don't know. So now I can go takes, which isn't something I would like to do. I can go e4, which allows a tempo, or I can play it safely with e3. So takes, 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 king takes. I don't think taking is a good option when you have a pawn on c4. So I'll just play knight f3. And if e4, I can play knight g1. This is a very provocative move, inviting e4 or e takes d4, but I don't want to play queen takes d4. I have to study these lines, I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a lot of experience with the early e5, and I hate positions in which I take. So now my opponent has to make a choice. I'm threatening to take. And if they play knight d7, yeah, now I don't have to take. I can simply go e4. And we're playing sort of standard Old Indian positions. So e4, takes, knight takes. I'm giving away the c5 square, but that's okay. I would have given it away after d5 as well. So takes, knight takes, knight c5. I do have f5 to compensate for that. I just don't like positions where I take on e5 and trade queens. My opponent is lower rated than me, so I want to keep tension in the position. I came close to 2300 twice, so close. So let's hope we can cross that and then keep going. So far, let me bring up the stats. So far, after 22 games, this is game 23, I have 11 wins, 5 losses, 4 draws, and 2 games against cheaters. I've introduced a new category, C, which you can see in the stats, because I cannot put that under losses, because they weren't losses. So C is confirmed cheaters. I've gotten my rating points back against. So yeah, that's, don't be confused. They didn't introduce a new result. Okay, g6. Now I'm very tempted to actually play d5. I'm also tempted to take on e5. Takes, pawn takes, takes, knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, king takes. This is a different story now. Now it's a different story. So either d5 or de5. I like de5. It's gonna be a Maroczy bind position where my opponent's gonna have a pawn on e5. So now I am gonna take. This may seem confusing, but the bishop is planning to head to g7, so I want to make sure there's a black pawn on e5, blocking that bishop, and my opponent has no choice but to keep a pawn on e5, whether they take with the pawn or with the knight. g6 will make less sense. Okay, now I want to go h3, but I'm kind of worried about knight c5, which leaves my e-pawn defenseless. So I'm thinking bishop e2, if knight c5, I can always take on e5, and that seems okay. If I go bishop d3, then my opponent is avoiding the queen trade, and also Yeah, okay, bishop e2, bishop e2. Because I don't think e4 is hanging. On knight c5, I can trade queen's take on e5 and threaten to take on f7. So if knight c5, queen d8, king d8, knight e5, there's no knight e4 because of knight f7 check. So I'm basically up a pawn. My opponent has to do something else. And bishop e2 is useful because if bishop c5, there's no knight g4 I can castle. I didn't want to go bishop e3, allowing knight g4. So if the knight moves away from d7 before black castles, I can take on e5. And if it moves away later, I can still take on e5. So my opponent's going to have to go rook e8, probably. I don't know, I like my position. I like my position a lot. More space, weakness on e5, bad f8 bishop. Or not a bad f8 bishop, but g6 was a sort of wasted move. I've studied theory in Old Indian, King's Indian, Pirc, modern transpositions a lot. Not theory, but ideas, and I think this is fine. So my opponent wants to take on e4. So should I play queen c2? Queen c2, bishop c3, bc3, knight c5, I still have knight e5. So I could go bishop g5. That's always an option. Bishop g5. Bishop g5, h6. Bishop f6, queen f6. I don't like that. I feel like queen c2 is the move. If my opponent wants to give up the dark squared bishop after having made this horrendous weakness on the dark squares, that's fine. I really don't mind. Knight c5 still runs into knight e5. Or even bishop g5. If there are some tough positions from this game, which I didn't understand well, I'm gonna be playing them out against Nocti. Castles, okay. I feel like I should castle, but I may be able to go bishop g5 now. Bishop g5, because there is no h6. No, I'm gonna castle first. I need to unpin my knight, because then after bishop g5 I'm threatening knight d5. Oh. Very risky. Very risky, I think. I mean, it's a logical move, preventing knight d5, but what if I go rook d1? Does my opponent play queen e7 or queen c7? My opponent wants to play queen c7. Okay, so c6 is a good move. I still feel like bishop g5 is okay. Bishop g5, queen c7. f3 needs to be played. I want to play f3. My opponent has a bad bishop, but it's not going to stay bad for long unless I react immediately. So do I go bishop d2? Bishop d2, queen c7, a3. Oh, I actually like that. I'm gonna go bishop d2. It may seem like a weird move, but why would I accept double pawns unless I have to? Because on knight c5 now, I have a3, and on knight e4 I can take on e5. Also on knight c5 I can immediately take on e5. No, normally I would frown upon a move like bishop d2, but I think it's justified here. The birds are a bit loud, but I hope you can excuse that. Good move. So a3. Bishop takes, knight c5 fails to bishop e5. Okay, so a3. I really am expecting bishop takes knight. Because if bishop c5 I have b4, if bishop d6 I have b4 c5, if bishop e7... Well, the first question is, where does this knight move? Because the knight is going to have to move. And my opponent's going to have to develop the c8 bishop somehow. Why am I down on the clock? I have a feeling that I'm playing very quickly. Where's my war? Yeah, I like bishop d2. I like this option of playing a3 and b4 without getting doubled pawns. Okay, bishop d6. Now, can I go b4? b4? I like b4. b4 followed by c5, gaining space. Let's do that. e4 is defended. Everything is fine. I'm gonna gain another tempo. Okay. That sort of weakens c6. And it allows bishop b7, so it's probably a good idea. I want my rooks on d1 and c1. My opponent's gonna go bishop b7. So let's go rook f d1 first. Lining up with the bishop. Because I'll have a discovery with bishop h6. It may not be a good discovery, but if the queen moves, it wins an exchange. Unless the knight from d7 moves away. But I honestly don't see a good square for it. Does it go to b8? Seems like I have way more space. I mean, I do have way more space. And my opponent doesn't have access to c5 now. So rooks on c1, d1, setting up tricks with knight d5 in some positions if my queen moves away. Yeah, my opponent has to move the d7 knight somewhere. Because that will allow both rook d8 and bishop e6. But then again, why did you play b6 unless you plan to play bishop b7? Maybe to prevent c5, but I don't know. I'm very confident here. Very confident. Also, if my opponent plays knight b8, or let's say rook d8, knight f8, I have bishop g5 gaining a tempo on the knight. And then if the knight moves, the rook on d8 is hanging. So I've beaten international master Goran Antunac in the first Croatian league 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, in a very similar position, a Pirc in which the structure was e4, e5, and the bishop on g7 was bad. My opponent has a bishop on d6, but you can see that the bishop has very few squares. So in these Pirc, Old Indian, King's Indian positions, when there's a pawn on e5 for black, the dark squared bishop is bad. So I'm playing how I would approach this in a classical game, and I think I have an advantage. Well, that hangs the exchange unless you plan to play knight g7. But I feel like I can put additional pressure on this bishop now. So bishop h6, forcing knight g7, and then let's say queen d3, double attacking the bishop on d6. The bishop only has the e7 square. Ooh, yeah, I'm very tempted to do this. Knight g7, queen d2 or queen d3? Let's say queen d2. The bishop drops back to e7. And then, do I have anything good? My opponent wants to play f5. I can see that. So, if I go queen d2, bishop e7, maybe I should develop my other rook first. Maybe I have rook d6. Rook d6, queen d6, rook d1. Do I have compensation there? I doubt it. So I want to go queen d2. I also want to go knight g5 because that prevents f5. One of the dogs came out and there's a cat nearby, so there may be trouble. My opponent wants to play knight f6. But if I go queen d2, maybe knight g7 first. If f5, if knight g5, f5, then bishop g7, king g7, knight e6 just wins the queen. So let's start attacking. I want to start attacking my opponent. If bishop e7 now, there's no knight f5, I have a pawn on e4. f5 has been prevented. Knight f6 prevents f5. So if I can keep my knight on g5, that seems crushing. I also really should start considering rook d6 more seriously. Yeah, this seems like an amazing position. Look at my pieces. Look at my bishop on h6. Wow. Look at my knight on g5. Knight f6. Okay, now there is no f5. So if I go queen d2, my opponent has rook d8. I want to go c5 and bishop c4. I need my bishop on c4. c5. Maybe I should go rook d2 first. But if I go rook d2, that may allow bishop a6, and then I don't have c5. Well, I do, because it's with tempo on the bishop. So c5, bc5, bc5, bishop c5. Is that good? Bishop c4. No, there's knight g4, there's all sorts of trouble. So let's double up my rooks. I don't need a rook on the c-file, I'll just play rook d2, rook a d1. Let's see what my opponent does. My bishop on h6 isn't stuck as long as there are two pieces it can target. I didn't want to go queen d2 because of rook d8. This way I'm preventing bishop e6, and if bishop a6, I have c5 winning a piece. Okay. So now f7 is less defended. And c5, after rook a d1, c5 the bishop cannot take because the rook is hanging. So now we're getting somewhere. My opponent wishes to trade. So takes, bishop takes, c5. My opponent's gonna have to go bishop e7. I mean, I don't have to react now. Yeah, I do, because the knight also controls c5. So knight e6, bishop e6, c5, bc5, bc5, bishop e7, rook d8, bishop d8. Do I have anything? Maybe I don't have anything there. Okay, I have to take. I cannot allow knight d4. That's clear. Can I throw in bishop g5 now? Because my opponent's gonna have to go king g7. Oh, I like bishop g5. I like that. Because now I'm threatening the knight. Oh, bishop e7. Okay, I didn't think this was possible. Why didn't I think this was possible? That's just stupid. What was I thinking? Why didn't I think bishop e7 was possible? Okay, I'm gonna play f3. I need to start playing quickly, controlling g4, defending e4. There's no knight e4 because I take with the knight. Yeah, I'm not so happy about my position anymore. Why would you do that? Why? Why? I don't get this move. Okay, so I think I declined the trade. This is my good bishop. I don't want to accept this trade. If my opponent goes knight d6, then I will go c5. And I want to go b5 as well, because on cb5, I play cb5 and I gain control over the d5 square. And I'll have knight d5. So my plan is to play b5. If knight d6, I play c5. I think. I'm not sure. Why am I down 2 minutes on the clock? Come on. Speed up. Okay, c5. c5, bc, bishop c. Knight c4. Bishop c4, bishop c4. Okay, my bishop on e2 is my bad bishop. That's fine. That's fine. Perfectly fine. c5. I'm gonna snap this bishop off. This knight off. Okay, takes. Now, do I trade on d8? Do I trade on b6? Do I play knight d5? Oof. Oof. Trading on b6 followed by knight d5 seems amazing. Because the queen's hanging on c7. So cb6, ab6. Knight d5. If cd5, then ed5. Threatening d6. No, not threatening d6. Wait. Knight d5 immediately? Knight d5. If bishop d5, then ed5. If cb6, ab6, knight d5, cd5, ed5, bishop d5 hangs the queen. If rook a3, I can play d6, bishop takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, and queen c4 doesn't hang mate. Oh, this is getting very complicated. What if I just go knight a4? Attacking the bishop and attacking b6. Doesn't that win material? Knight a4. The bishop's attacked. Then let's say the bishop moves away. I play cb6, ab6, bishop b6, attacking the queen and the rook. Yeah, I don't even need to risk anything. This is fine. Although my opponent has rook d2, and then it's just the queen that's attacked. So I may have to take on b6 with the knight. Okay, I have not expected this. So this seems fine. I'm looking at knight b2. I've also wasted too much time, so let's play quickly. Mosquitoes are eating me alive. Okay, I've gotten rid of my bad bishop. I need to bring my knight somewhere sensible, like e3. Okay, I'm trading once. I want to free up the d1 square for my knight. I'm trading again, and I'll go queen d2, because I have a knight in a close center position. Maybe I'm not going queen d2. Wait. Let's not be hasty. Can my opponent get to a3 somehow. I don't think so. So yeah, let's trade queens. Let's trade queens. This bishop is still bad because of the pawn on e5. So I'm looking at my bishop and I'm thinking my bishop is much better. Let's do that. These pawns seem immune. My bishop controls this diagonal, and I don't think there's a way in for my opponent's bishop. I got down to 2 minutes, so I got upset and scared. So I initiated a bunch of trades. That's probably not a good decision overall, but I didn't want to... Okay, my opponent decides to decline the trade. Okay, let's just bring my king in. I think the knight is way superior to the bishop in this endgame. Yeah, I'm not gonna free up your pawn. Definitely not. But this threatens to win my bishop, so I better play king e2 to avoid any problems. I want my king on the other side of the board. So with bishop g4, I go king d3, king c2, king b1. Keep my king on the other side. How am I 4 minutes down on the clock? Okay, let's concentrate. Let's win this game. Come on. I think I'm slightly worse with the queen still on the board, but I don't think it's much worse. As long as the pawn stays on e5, I'm happy. Go away. The problem with recording outside is that there are flies and mosquitoes. I think my opponent should take either now or in a move, but taking definitely improves their light squared bishop, so I don't see a world in which black doesn't take on e4. All right. Run away! Run away! There's bishop b3, but... Okay, maybe here. Maybe king d3. I still don't mind the queen trade. But I'll go king d1. If things start happening on the king side, I want my king safe on the queen side. a5 isn't playable. And I'm looking forward to playing queen c3 and knight d3. I want to start putting pressure on the e5 pawn. And then if e5 falls, black's gonna be in trouble. Oof. Okay, I'm very happy to see this, because now there aren't that many tricks with the light squared bishop. So can we move on to greater things now and play knight d3 and queen c3? Well, let's go king c2 first. My opponent wants to go g4, I can see that, I don't care. I want to go queen c3, knight d3. Actually, let's start with knight d3. No, let's start with queen c3. Because if king f6 and g4, I'll have knight takes f4. I think f4 is a mistake. I don't think my opponent should have played f4 because they have the two bishops. And if I get to play with the knight in a completely closed position with a fixed target on e5, in theory that's good for me. In practice, I have no idea. But at this point I would take white in a classical tournament game. In a rapid game with a minute and 20 on the clock, I wouldn't take either side. I would run away and play something else, play a different game. Okay, now, if I go knight d3, king f6 loses a pawn, so let's do that. Let's see if my opponent blunders. Bishop f6 is the only move. Okay. So can I get my bishop to... Ooh, I can get my bishop to b2? Can I? There is bishop c4. Let's try. If the king moves away from the bishop, I also have knight f4. No! I've allowed bishop f1. Why did I allow bishop f1? No! No, I didn't see that. I'm gonna have to go queen d2. Completely messing up my setup. But then again, if my opponent plays bishop f1 after queen d2, well, how's the bishop coming back now? So I obviously cannot play queen d2 now because my opponent takes on g4, but on f3. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna flag. Let's just repeat once. I've allowed queen a2, which I wasn't even aware of. Also queen h3, my god. All sorts of nonsense. Yeah. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. What do I do? Knight d3. Bishop f3, knight d6. Bishop d6, queen d6. I don't know, I'll try. If bishop takes, queen h2. Oh, that's a good move. That's an excellent move. Oof, that's a great move. I don't know, I'm losing now, but because I've allowed queen d3 check. I'm going for a draw because I'm gonna flag. Oh, sorry. No, what am I talking about? I played bishop here. Yeah, it's not a draw. I'm threatening to infiltrate. I don't know what's going on. I have 30 seconds on the clock and I have no idea what's going on. King g8 loses to mate. King f8. I can play queen f4 at least. I feel like this is gonna be a perpetual, but I'm gonna start picking up some pawns. I could be better, I don't know. I just have to play quickly. Oh, what am I doing? Is queen g7 enough? Maybe. Maybe. Queen g7, f7, f2. Queen g7, f2, queen f6. I have to prevent king c4. Move away, move away. I'm playing for the win. Maybe I'm gonna lose, but I'm playing for a win. F2 doesn't work, I have queen h4. What does my opponent do? Maybe I'm winning now. Maybe I'm losing. Maybe it's a draw. I don't know anything. Is this mate? This is mate. Is this gonna be mate? Concentrate, concentrate. Concentrate. No, no, why? Why? Okay, okay, okay. I have bishop d4. I have bishop d4. Threatening mate in 1. Queen e2 doesn't work because my bishop's covering the queening square. Oh, am I gonna win this game? Come on! Yeah, I'm winning. I'm winning, that's it. Oof. Oof. Okay. Yes! Yes! I didn't mess up in time trouble. Come on! Yeah, this is over. My opponent should resign. There's no hope. Okay. Oh my god. This was so intense. I'll just make a million queens now. Oh, yes. I'm so happy. Okay, let's analyze. Phew. Okay, let's see. So first of all, let's look at the theory here after e5. Knight 3 is the main move. Okay. Knight bd7, e4, g6. Wait, d5 is wrong? Is d5 bad or just uncommon? Why is d5 bad? Oh, yeah. d5 is bad because I don't have bishop e2, there's bishop b4. Okay, my opponent should have taken. Still should have taken. Bishop d2 is bad, I should have gone knight e4. a3 is good, he should have gone bishop e7. b4 is good, b6 is good. Ah! Mosquitoes are killing me. I should have gone c5? Wait. c5, bc5, b5. Winning the d5 square. This is nice. Okay, but I played bishop h6, knight g7. I still didn't play c5. And I lost my advantage. And I lost my advantage. Equal, 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 equal. Knight d5 immediately was good. So takes, here. Oof. Okay, yeah, it was good. But I played knight a4, a mistake. Equal, equal, equal. After the rook traded, still equal. My opponent should have traded queens. I got my king in. Black is slightly better. Okay. Yeah, I should not have allowed bishop f... I expected bishop f1, but he played bishop e2. I lost? I lost because there's bishop f1 now. I had 29 seconds. Yeah, I didn't see that. Knight d3. Jesus. Yeah, I was just losing. Yeah, why didn't my opponent take on a3? That's what I was expecting. Okay, f3 loses. My opponent should have traded queens. Let's see. I made so many mistakes. This is ridiculous. How did I win? Draw, draw, draw. Draw, draw, draw. Okay, now I am winning because I pick up the bishop. And queen e2 never works. Yes. Okay, let's see the accuracy. 1 blunder, 3 mistakes, 2 inaccuracies. Move away. My opponent had 2 blunders, 3 mistakes, and 2 inaccuracies. This is... yeah, this is... oof. I'm very happy with this game. How many points did I win? 5 points. So... 4 points to go to 2300. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more chess. See you later.